This is Roger Stone for American Sovereign Bullion. Since 2020, the U.S. dollar has lost over 20% of its purchasing power. Meanwhile, gold continues to rise. Call 844-272-2428 or go to asbgold.com now to get your free gold and silver guide and learn how to protect your wealth with physical gold and silver delivered to your door or held in a gold IRA today. So go to asbgold.com now. Don't wait for the markets to drop. That's asbgold.com.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Roger Stone Show. Several members of Congress are slated to be expelled from that body next week. Sheila Sirphyllis McCormick, the now extraordinarily well-known Eric Swalwell, Tony Gonzalez, a Republican of Texas, but I submit to you that there's a fourth member who should be expelled. He's a member of my own party, and that is Congressman Corey Mills. Joining us now is someone we're just going to identify as CJ. We're not going to tell you her real identity because, well, Corey Mills is known for violence. And you don't want to put her life in risk. But she is among the very finest and respected researchers in the country, who's worked for many famous people and institutions, and she is incredibly meticulous. And she has prepared a report on Corey Mills, which will curl your ears. I submit to you that Corey Mills makes Eric Swalwell look like Mother Teresa, and therefore this is not about partisanship. Yes, Swalwell deserves to be expelled. He was driven from the California governor's race. Tony Gonzalez is a Republican, but for his actions, sexual abuse of his own members of his own staff and others, he too should be expelled. Sir Phyllis McCormick is involved in a massive financial crime, stealing from the taxpayers of the United States, but Corey Mills is something special. So, CJ, thank you for joining us. We're not going to reveal your real identity because I don't want to put your life at risk. Her report was commissioned by the Earl E.T. Smith Republican Club of Palm Beach County, Florida, because they wanted to know the truth about Corey Mills. A lot of representations have been made to them about this case, but today you're going to hear the truth. So, CJ, kind of lay out for our listeners, if you will, what your special report on Congressman Corey Mills revealed.
How are you? So thank you for having me today. When I started the report, I didn't know how to tell the story because it was rather voluminous. I didn't know whether I should go chronologically or with what was occurring in the past 48 hours, and I decided to go with level of audacity as the best way to organize this paper. So Corey has made the press, unfortunately for him, this weekend, but I want to focus first on something that happened in 2014. In 2014, Corey Mills was in Falls Church, Virginia, and he was going to marry a woman by the name of Rana. Rana is a Iraqi-born, naturalized U.S. citizen who happened to be a translator for the administration. And they decided to get married, and the imam that was marrying them was a man named Mohammed Al-Hanoudi. And Mohammed Al-Hanoudi's claim to fame is he is number 67 on the list of 172 unindicted co-conspirators for the 1993 bombing of the World Trade Center that killed 6 people. Corey Mills has made a career of saying that, he got the Bronze Star and he had a lot of service to his country. And we are to believe that in 2014, he did not know Al-Hanoudi's presence, what his beliefs were. He did not know that was tied into a mosque, Dar Hijra, I believe the name was, that had political ties to Islamic extremists. So I'm questioning the man's judgment. That leads us to what's going on this weekend with the...
Well, kind of an obvious question, if I may intercede. If he chose to get married by an imam in a mosque, is it reasonable for us to presume that at the time he was a Muslim?
I would say that is a fair question. And I thought about it, from a researcher's standpoint. I'm supposed to be unbiased. I want the research to be so compelling that you draw your own conclusions. And I would say that if a Catholic got married in St. Patrick's Cathedral, one would also draw the same comparison. So now, we live in a society where things can be very fluid, and maybe he's changed his personal stance on religion. But at that time, it was a very strict policy for people to be married through that venue, that they must be Muslim. So I found that a little bit peculiar. As we fast forward through the timeline, we'll go to what's making the press right now. And so there are claims that the footage is out of this body cam of an altercation he had with one particular girlfriend, Sarah Raviani. And I say one particular girlfriend because there seems to be an overlap. And fair enough, that's his personal life. What is apparent is that there is still images of a police officer questioning him, and there are statements that were made by Sarah Raviani that there was, in fact, a physical altercation in Washington, D.C. She later recanted her statement, saying that the both were drinking and she was under stress, and the marks on her arm came from a trip to Dubai. Fair enough. But if we fast forward to August of 2025, we have another woman, an up-and-coming star named Lindsay B. Langston, also in her 20s. And Lindsay B. Langston comes to find out that Corey Mills is dating other women, and they might have a volatile relationship, but it didn't end well. Corey sends text messages to Lindsay stating, "I'm going to release our sex tapes," and, he makes some threats against people that Lindsay's dating or if she chooses to date, and Lindsay was scared. So she went and she got a restraining order, and she was granted that restraining order. And I can only imagine as a woman what these 20-year-olds are going through, because I know in my 20s, if someone said to me, "Hey, I'm going to release a sex tape of us," I would be very upset. I wouldn't know what to do. In my 40s, if you were to say, "Hey, I'm going to release a sex tape," I would say, "Please do. I'm sure I look amazing, and I will sue you into generational wealth. I mean, I will take everything that you have." What I noticed was this pattern that strikes me as very abusive of Corey Mills maybe taking advantage of people in a lesser position or having less experience with the world. And that was very disappointing, because this is a man that's supposed to help make decisions for the country, especially our party. So, I can continue if you like.
No, please continue, because I want a fuller picture here. We have plenty of time. I guess an obvious question is, what happened to his wife?
Well, it's not that she's fallen off the face of the marriage. They are separated. He says, and he recently said, there's a video on X that he was not married, and he can use that definition of the circumstances. And he also went to say that he did not harass any staffers. And once again, if we just pick on the vocabulary, he in fact is not lying, because they're not his staffers that have made these claims. There are women who he dated personally, but seem to have violated, common decency. There's some other claims that I find very bizarre. There was a claim that he had hired sex workers during a trip to extract a woman by the name of Miriam and her family in Afghanistan. And the trip itself is documented, and there are photos of him on the trip. And what I cannot find evidence of to support is that he was hiring sex workers, not on one occasion, but on many occasions, and was told to stop. Now, I have peeled the internet. I have peeled private sources or sources that you're only allowed to get to through membership or affiliation. I cannot find any evidence of that. So I know that he may not be well liked, but there is no substance to those claims. There is substance to what Lindsay said about him and what occurred in that video, which we still only have the still shots. In keeping with the astoundingly poor decisions that this man is making, I'm going to switch gears to the more financial stuff that he is involved himself in. He has not paid his rent. He is so back in rent that it is $85,000 due to a management company named Bozzuto Management. They have filed papers against him in the Superior Court in the District of Columbia. I have the case number here. But again, this is someone who is supposed to represent, his constituents and the party well, and not paying the rent in a luxury building and owing $85,000 is just not the best look. $85,009.80 total rent due from March of 2025. Let me see the case number. I don't have the case number, but it's regarding the 1331 residences notice to pay rent by February 26th of 2025. So that's a little disappointing. But here it is. The case number is regarding parcel 47F, and it's 2025 LTB 006854.
Let us speak now we've obviously you've determined a lot about his private life. Are there allegations of inappropriate or, in fact, violent conduct with women?
Say that one more time. You broke up.
Evidence of violence against women or other inappropriate conduct with women?
Oh, that is for sure with what I've found. With the two incidences with Sarah, as well as with Lindsay, I would say that this is not a gentleman that I would want my daughters to date.
All right, let us speak now to the question of stolen valor. We have about 36 seconds, and we'll come back with more of CJ and her findings. But stolen valor, to me, is among the most egregious things. I did not serve, but I have great reverence for those who did serve. CJ, we're not using her real name today because I don't want to put her life in risk, has compiled an extraordinary report, which will be sent to every member of Congress as they consider expelling Corey Mills. Corey Mills voted with the Democrats only weeks ago on a crucial matter to try to buy time and perhaps make some kind of a deal to avoid being expelled from the House, but that's not likely to happen. We'll talk about it on the other side, right here at the Roger Stone Show, so don't go away. And we're back on the Roger Stone Show. It's only the hottest political show on terrestrial radio today. And, of course, you can hear us online as well. We're talking to, we're just going to call her CJ. She's one of the most respected researchers in the country, has worked for many, many famous people, but out of respect for her safety, because Corey Mills is known as an extraordinarily violent individual, don't want to put her life at risk. She has done a comprehensive 48-page special report on Corey Mills that will be sent to every member of Congress as they consider expulsion. Making bad choices in dating when you're separated from your wife, that's one thing, but there's a lot more here, isn't there, CJ?
Yes, there's a hell of a lot more, and I'd like to read you an excerpt written by Lindsay Langston, the woman who filed a restraining order and got a restraining order, and it's in her own handwriting. And the question was, describe the nature of the relationship. And she wrote, I've been in a romantic relationship with Corey since November of 2021. I recently had moved in with him in his Florida residence. In February of 2025, he was involved in a physical altercation with another girlfriend whom I was unaware of, and it made the news. I moved out of the house and attempted to move on with my life. Corey has since threatened to physically harm anyone I date and blackmail me with nude images and videos. She goes on to say, question 8, imminent danger. Petitioner is a victim of dating violence and has a reasonable cause to believe he or she is in imminent danger. And Lindsay writes, Corey has cyberstalked and continued to make threats to harm me emotionally, physically, harm my future, my romantic partners. And forgive me, her handwriting is a little bit hard for me to read. Harm both romantic partners verbally and in writing to ruin my public image. He's reaching out to organizations to speak at events I have to attend as a way to, forgive me, her handwriting is a little bit hard to comprehend. I think intimidate, and an investigation for assault of his other girlfriend is underway. So from those two questions that Lindsay Langston answered in order to get her restraining order, she's clearly referencing the issues that occurred with Sarah Raviani. Now, I find Sarah a very interesting character because I have some text messages between her and Corey as well. And, you know, these are ladies in their 20s, and it's just a shame as someone, you know, older, reading them, the position that he's put these women in. And so this is Corey's communication with Sarah Raviani via text message on a thread called New Year's Fun, where Corey Mills says, and you will be a good girl and do anything he wants or asks. And Sarah writes, of course, I aim to please. And Corey writes, he can have you as many times as he wants, any way he wants, and finish anywhere he chooses. Right, babe? And Sarah writes, yes, baby. And what can you not do, writes Corey. And Sarah writes, won't say no to anything Chris wants. And Corey Mills writes, yes, babe.
Wow, that's shocking. Shocking. If you're just tuning in, we're talking about Congressman Corey Mills, supposedly a conservative Republican of the 7th District of Florida. In coming days, the U.S. House of Representatives will consider expelling him. He has been endorsed by President Trump, who I think was unaware of any of this, and he has not yet, to my knowledge, filed for re-election. But we'll talk about the politics on the other side. We're listening to The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Audio Networks, and we're on fire here, so don't go away. Welcome back. It's the Roger Stone Show. Glad to be back after a week in Washington, visiting the President, the Vice President, a number of other cabinet officers, and getting a first-hand read on the situation regarding the war. And, of course, I'm a political animal, so I'm most interested in 2026. A delicate balance in the House, but we're focused today on Congressman Corey Mills. Corey Mills makes a number of claims about his military record. There's some interesting things about his financial background. I think there's a high probability that he will be expelled by the U.S. House of Representatives, along with the reprobate Eric Swalwell, Congresswoman Sheila Phyllis McCormick. She just got caught stealing from the American taxpayers. Spent it on some beautiful jewelry, though. And, of course, Tony Gonzalez, who made inappropriate sexual advances to members of his own staff and others as a member of Congress. But Corey Mills should most definitely be on this list. We have no fear of losing that seat if he chooses to remain in the race. There is a self-funding, very, very wealthy, 100% MAGA patriot standing in the wings, ready to file for the seat to represent the Trump America First agenda. But my fear is if that does not happen and Corey Mills is expelled, he still, by the way, could run for the seat again. Adam Clayton Powell Jr. did that from Harlem, but trust me, Corey Mills is no Adam Clayton Powell. Plus, he's about 3 feet shorter. Anyway, so we return to our guest. She is widely respected researcher. Today we're going to call her CJ because I have concerns about her personal safety. Corey Mills is known as a violent individual. CJ, back to you for the breakdown on Corey Mills.
So before we get into the stolen valor, I think the last bit of his personal life is Sarah Raviani just recently gave birth, and congratulations to the new mother. I'm sorry it's under these circumstances. The paternity of the child is yet to be unknown, and what's sad about this whole thing is the text messages. I mean, is Corey Mills a new dad? Do we send a gift? Is it the gentleman Chris that's labeled in the text message? I mean, it's just such a sordid situation when it should be a new mother's most exciting time. So it's rather unfortunate, and I wish the new mother and whoever the father is all the best. But moving on to the stolen valor. So there have been issues with Corey Mills and him saying he has the Bronze Star. There's no question he has the Bronze Star. It was from incidents back in 2003. The paperwork was done retroactively in 2021, and Mills claims he saved the life of 3 servicemen: Alan Babin, Joe Haidt, H-E-I-T, and Joseph Ferrand. And all 3 men have no recollection of Mills coming to their rescue. The Army Form 638 includes a signature from then Army Brigade Commander Arnold N. Gordon Bray. The now retired Brigadier General Bray has stated to multiple outlets that he did not sign that recommendation for Corey Mills. I've never served, and I'm not of the military, and stolen valor is a very serious accusation. I think that we, as a general society, whether you're Democrat or Republican, we should really look into these claims. I think that if he, in fact, did, serve with such distinguished bravery, that it should be put to rest. And I think that an official inquiry should be made on whether or not he deserved the Bronze Star. And this leads to him operating in another capacity. Much of his career was spent working with contractors when he was overseas, and he has since formed a company, and forgive me on the pronunciation, but it's PASM or Pasham Defense, also affiliated with a company called ALS, which I will get to in a moment. But he has rebranded his life as a international defense contractor, very Lord of War, and they owe about $50 million to a Canadian lending group. So that's first and foremost in keeping with the pattern of not being the best at paying the bills. I mentioned a subsidiary called ALS before because they make rubber bullets for less lethal, and those bullets happen to end up in the hands of the Hong Kong police when they were doing riot policing. So, again, I just wonder how involved Corey Mills is in the decision-making process and whether or not he recognizes that this may just not be the best look for someone who is representing all of us. Maybe he should take a step back and reevaluate some of the decisions that he's making. And the last thing that I want to say, which I saw the papers and I find this very disturbing, is before Kash Patel became FBI director, Kash Patel had and still has the Kash Patel Foundation. And in 2023, in his private capacity, Kash decided that he was going to donate to many organizations that were helping Americans around the world get out of some sticky situations. After October 7th, some Americans were stuck in Israel. That's just one example. And the Kash Patel Foundation donated $20,000 to an organization called Never Forgotten. And Never Forgotten is affiliated with Corey Mills through the avenue of everyone on that board is also on the board of pass him defense. They are not strangers to each other. Now, Kash Patel documented that transaction correctly on the 2023 forms, the 990s, which I've provided in the report. Oddly enough, that $20,000 does not show up on Never Forgotten's report. So I said, well, maybe it's a mistake. Maybe it's not documented correctly. And I went and I looked at every possible way that it could have been a mistake. And I'll lead with, you can say that the donor is restricted and hide their identity, but you have to post the amount, and it's not there. So I just find this continued pattern of questionable choices and operating in such a gray zone that I leave it up to whoever's listening or whoever's reading the report to find if the evidence is compelling enough to say that maybe this is someone whose decision-making process is faulty and should not be representing the party. And thank you guys for having me on.
Thanks for listening to The Roger Stone Show. You can hear The Roger Stone Show Sunday afternoons at 3. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?